Hello and welcome back to the garden. It's a bit of a breezy day, so hopefully you can hear me. And I'm down here in the lower quarry in an area that I call the Stumpery. It's a new area. I've been working on it for the last 18 months, adding things here and there. I don't actually have any tree stumps. Would be nice if I did, but I'm creating it by using sections from limbs of trees that have come down over the last 2 years, and also sections of old gnarly wood that I've found lying around, and I'm attempting to make a feature out of it. But I do have some plants to add. These are plants that I've had lying around for probably the last 6 months. I dug them out from further on down in the quarry, tiarellas. I dug them out in the spring to add to this little section here, but I never got round to it. It was too much of a warm spring, and then obviously a warm summer that we've had here in the UK. And I was concerned that if I added them, then they would have just probably died because it was so dry. There isn't any irrigation down here. So I thought this is the good time of year to add them because we're now back into the rainy season. And I thought if I bring them down and add them now, and hopefully they should establish over the autumn. Now this particular tiarella is called, I think it's Skyrocket. It's got pink flowers, and like all tiarellas, they do well in a semi-shaded spot. Like to be kept moist until they get established, and then they will tolerate dry conditions. But they're ideal if you've got a shaded area or in a woodland area like I have. They're pretty much often used as a woodland perennial. Can often stay evergreen in my climate, but on the whole they're deciduous in most climates. And I'm just adding a few of them around this little trio of tree stumps, or at least what I'm calling tree stumps. Now what I'm trying to do every time I plant is mulch the area, because I've found that when I don't, the weeds just grow and I often can't get it back to the way I want it without having to spend a lot of time and effort. Now this shredded wood chippings or bark, I don't put it right up to the crown of the plant because it would rot the plant away, especially over the winter. So I'm just adding it around and about, but not right up to the crown. Same with these ferns. Got a lot more mulch to add, but I'll do that off camera because it's not very interesting. So now on to the next project. Now this here is a pile of gnarly old wood which I'm attempting to make a feature out of. I planted the 3 hart's tongue ferns, asplenium, last year, and they've done really well, so I want to add another one in the middle, but I want to lift it in height just to make more of a feature of this wood. So the reason why I brought the soil round was to build it up so I could add the fern. So I've made a nice planting pocket there in amongst all of this old wood, and the fern that I'm adding is another asplenium to match the ones in the front. And it should just sit in there nicely. And I'll just pack the soil around it. think that makes quite a nice feature. I'm quite happy with that. Well, another piece of gnarly old wood, and this one's got a natural hole in the centre. So I'm just filling it full of soil so I can add a fern in the middle so it looks like it's grown out of here all by itself, quite naturally. And the fern that I've chosen is this one here. It's a small winter hardy evergreen fern in my climate, and it's a polysticum, and it's very pretty. Shouldn't grow too much more than what it is, and it should nestle down quite nicely in the middle of this log, and hopefully over time the log will just more than likely disintegrate even more, but it'll look nice and natural. So before I add the last plants of today, I'm just adding more of these asplenium, the hartstongue fern. Now I've been digging these out of the garden just to add to this grouping because I think it finishes it off, and I've got quite a few of them. And you might ask, why do I love these so much? Well, one, they've got gorgeous glossy leaves. They stay evergreen in my climate. They've survived such dry conditions during this year, and they've never stopped growing. They're not a huge fern, but they add such presence down here in what is pretty much a shaded garden. And one of the best reasons is the rabbits actually devoured them all last winter, and they just came back in the spring and they didn't bat an eye. So I think that's probably good enough reasons why to add them to your garden. The last grouping of plants today that I'm adding around this gnarly wood section is a Pulmonaria. And this one is shrimps on the barbie. And I've had these since last winter. I bought them in the discount section in the garden centre, where I get a lot of plants, and I've kept them watered all summer because I knew at some point that I'll be down here able to add them. Now, Pulmonarias are a good plant for a shaded spot, semi-shaded spot in the garden. To flower well, they require several hours of sunshine a day though, in my experience. This summer I've got some in the front that did succumb to powdery mildew. I didn't get to cut them back in time, and it spread from one to the other, and I had 3 of them which were all covered in this mildew. And that's because it was so dry and it didn't have sufficient water. They hate to have dry roots. Just something to be aware of if you plant them in a spot like mine with no irrigation. Cut them back and they do bounce back. They never die from it. So that's it. I'll add the third one. I'll mulch around this area, and I'll give you a walk through to show you what it looks like now that it's all done. Adding the mulch has made such a difference. In this section, the grouping of ferns, I added them last year. They did struggle earlier in the year with all of the dry weather, but they've come back quite strongly. This is the grouping of Pulmonarias that did have mildew problems, but they've also bounced back. That's the new small grouping at the back of the new ones. And then you have all of the hartstongue ferns, the asplenium, the very small fern that I've added to this piece of gnarly old wood, which I think looks really cute. I like that. And the one that I've added in the centre of that section of what I'm calling tree stumps. What you can see at the back, that's all comfrey. I haven't attempted to do over the other side of this border yet. I've just kept it to this area. The tiarellas, very small, but they should grow well in the next couple of months. And then all of this section was planted last year, all of these ferns, mainly all dryopterous ferns, all different kinds. And the mulch stops here because I ran out of it. When I planned the projects for the year, I'd hoped to achieve more on the Stumpery this year. It hasn't progressed as much as I'd hoped, but it's been one of those years. It's a big area, it's a long-term project, and I'll get there eventually. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.